They were just girls, and they were begging the world to believe them and fight for them.
She just continued to reiterate, like, what is it going to take for people to finally believe me? And by continuously being gaslit by the UK government, the UK Metropolitan Police, the US government here, her mind took a very large toll.
Virginia did first speak to the Metropolitan Police in London as far back as May 2015. They decided not to continue with any investigation. They reviewed that again in 2019, deciding again not to investigate. Is it time for them to review those decisions?
100%. What else does it have to take? I think the cost of proof is too high for these survivors.
Hello and welcome to The Forecast. In 2011, Virginia Roberts Giuffre became known as the most outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Her campaigning against their abuse and trafficking helped to get justice for many women, but she was perhaps best known for a now infamous photograph taken when she was aged just 17, meeting with Prince Andrew. She claimed it was taken prior to one of 3 times she was forced to have sex with the king's brother. They were encounters he denies took place, but which have led to his public downfall, with Prince Andrew reportedly paying around £12 million to Virginia Giuffre, formally ending a civil case brought against him in the US. Earlier this year, Virginia took her own life. Before she died, she wrote a memoir and made it clear that she wanted the world to read it. Today, I'm joined by her brother and sister-in-law, Sky and Amanda Roberts, to talk about the woman behind the headlines, the legacy she leaves, and the story that she wanted to tell in her own words. Can I just begin by asking you, Sky, I'm imagining it is a bittersweet moment. Virginia's story will be published tomorrow. Finally, in her own words, the whole story, but she's not here. That must be quite difficult for you.
Yeah, I think it's, the best way to put it is over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of happy tears and a lot of sad tears because we've had many moments where she's been vindicated because of her ability to tell her story. And I think people are finally realizing the magnitude of what she was able to accomplish during her time here. And, we're sort of left in place here on the advocacy piece. And a lot of people are like, well, why are you guys coming forward now? And the truth is that, she always wanted to protect us from these. I remember her so clearly saying, like, I never want this evil to touch you or anyone in this world. So it is really, really difficult to come forward, but she'd be really proud of this moment. It's a very vindicating moment for her.
I was going to ask you about exactly that. I have heard you speak really movingly about how much Virginia tried to protect you as her younger brother. There are clearly some really difficult details in the book that she feared she would die as a sex slave at the hands of Epstein. I mean, are there things that you have had to read, that you have had to face for the first time?
I think we knew a lot of the information that was going to come out. She was very transparent with us about sort of some of the intimate details that were going to be in there. However, it's very different when you read it on a page. I think, growing up, I had known there were threats on my life, at least specifically from Epstein and Maxwell. That's something that she had shared with me. But it's just very different when it jumps out at you on the page. And, I want to be clear, like, it's crazy because you can hear her voice in that book. Like I can read the pages and I just feel like I can hear her in there. And I want to commend, Amy Wallace and the Penguin Random House for coming out, because the truth is, like, it's really hard read, but I think it's very impactful.
She suffered a great deal throughout her life. That is clear. One of the things that has struck me endlessly about this story is there's so much talk about how rich Jeffrey Epstein was, all his friends, the private planes, the private island, the fancy houses. It's a world that, awful connotations of glamour in this context, all details that hide the brutal reality of what was happening to Virginia and the other girls. But your sister's book will expose this all for what it was, which was exploitation, violence, sexual violence.
I think that is why this book is so important for a read. We get caught up in the salaciousness of survivors naming names. And what this book does, it really makes you take a step back and peek through the eyes of a vulnerable young girl, young child, teenager, what this world was like. And it really does address that, right? Because so many people critiqued these girls for saying, they could have just left and they received money. So, and it was lavish and that salaciousness of it. But it was abuse, it was coercive control, it was intimidation, it was threats to their lives, it was violent. And I think it brings back the humanity, especially if you're a parent. This could happen to your own child, and you really see that. This is the girl next door. And it could have been my neighbor, it could be my child, it could be a family member. And it really just brings you back to that shock and that humanity. And it makes you want to act. It makes you want to fight for that little girl who was begging the world to stand up for her. They were just girls, and they were begging the world to believe them and fight for them. And I think that's what's so powerful about this book, is you really see that little girl begging for that healing and that justice.
And you absolutely get the sense that she was begging for accountability, for people to take responsibility. And not only do the individuals fail to take responsibility, but the organizations, the structures around them, in too many instances, didn't force anyone to take responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that it does. And I think with this Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell case, and why it's so strong and why people care about this case so much, it's not just about the abuse of children, which is heinous, but it also shows the exposure of systems that have said for far too long, there is one set of laws for the rich and powerful, and then there is another set of laws for those who aren't. And it makes people angry because it's gone on for decades. And it really is that exposure of the abuse of power, of the abuse of the rich and powerful, the lengths that they went to intimidate these girls, to discredit them, to defame them, threatening their lives. It makes you angry as a person, because it's like that could have been my child, and why are we allowing these systems to exist? We have to do better. We have to go after legislation, and we have to expose those who have been abusing their positions for far too long.
Alongside the work that both of you are doing, the book is a sort of posthumous continuation of that fight for accountability. Now, obviously, we got the announcement last week that Prince Andrew has voluntarily agreed to give up his royal titles. Is this, in your view, enough, or should this actually be the beginning of a new process to look again at his involvement with Epstein?
Yeah, really happy you asked that, because I think what the book is it's more of it. And I think what happened with Prince Andrew it's not justice, it's acknowledgement. It's saying something could have happened here, and they're kind of starting to take some sort of action to that. Now, he didn't do himself any favors by any means, especially with, commenting in 2018 that, he had ceased contact. And then in 2011, we've got this set of emails that are released that essentially say we'll play again soon and we're in this together, right? So do I think it's enough? No, absolutely not. I think we have a lot of work to do. I can hear my sister saying that. She would not stop here. So I would say it's not justice, it's acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to separate those two things, because there is more work to do, and there's more people that are complicit here, not just Prince Andrew, but so many others that we need to be held to account.
And I want to ask you a couple of things about potential justice, more potential accountability. First of all, though, if you don't mind, he has voluntarily given up these titles. He wasn't forced, although there's discussions in the background, reports that the king did try to force his hand. Should the king strip him of the title of prince, do you think?
I think, yes. I think, again, it's not enough. I think survivors have been living in the shadows with this trauma that has happened to them They haven't been able to heal for so long. When do we actually start to see repercussions that really affect him? I think that we can go further. That would be something that we would ask, because that title, and this is the thing that struck Virginia so much, is the title of a prince. There's this certain expectation when you meet a prince that they are of this esteem, that they are gentlemen. And that specific feeling for her was such a letdown. It's just like, oh, a prince could do this too. And so, yes, I do think that we need to go further. I think, the royal family needs to really go further on this, and there should be more repercussions for his actions.
There's a really ongoing debate here now around those people who feel that more needs to be done. There's a discussion now about whether the British Parliament could change the law so it would make it easier for the king to formally remove the titles that Andrew has only voluntarily agreed not to use. But senior members of our government are saying this is not an issue for Parliament. We would be led by the monarchy. Is that disappointing to you?
Yes, I mean, I think anytime you put obstacles in place that would essentially be able to bring people to justice, that is absolutely unfortunate. It's a disjustice to the people of the UK. It's a disjustice to survivors out there of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, amongst many others. So yes, I would say it's very disappointing that any form of government, including the US, we have our own work to do here, would put any obstacles in place to bring any of these men, women, powerful figures to account.
It has emerged that the Metropolitan Police here are now looking into these claims. I know you've heard them, that Prince Andrew asked his police protection officer to try to uncover information about Virginia. What did you think when you heard this?
I think, again, it's just further vindication for Virginia. Why would you need to go through those lengths, first of all, if you're not guilty? That's the one thing that struck me. And then it also reaffirms the difficulties that these survivors were coming up against, that they're willing to use their power to intimidate them and go after them and defame them and find ways to discredit them. How egregious is that, especially a prince, to do something like that and abuse his power and position to get essentially someone to try to discredit a child. She was a child at the time. So that it wasn't so much a shock, to be quite honest. I think, Virginia had been saying it for so long that people had tried to intimidate her and tried to threaten her. So it wasn't much of a shock. Again, it felt like a vindication of this is exactly what she's been screaming for decades. And now we're finally seeing the truth surface.
And it's interesting the lengths that the prince appeared to go to. He managed to get her social security number, to ask his close protection officer to gather information about Virginia. All of this about a young woman he would later say he had no recollection of ever meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it further vindicates her. I mean, I remember an interview where she said, he's saying one thing, I'm saying this, and only one of us is telling the truth, and that person is me. And I think that's a very powerful statement now, because his actions are speaking louder than words. And she would be coming forward fully vindicated right now, saying, do you see? I told you the entire time, and now the world is starting to believe, because, there's this slow trickle of information, including, what you had just stated about obtaining. I mean, why would you want to obtain somebody's social security or information if in one way, shape, or form you weren't potentially complicit?
I mean, it's difficult for you, I know, because in a way you're fighting on two continents, aren't you? You have your battles at home, and also here, in terms of, we know now that the Met Police are investigating this idea that he asked his personal protection officer to investigate Virginia, as far as we can see. Do you have confidence in the Met Police to do this properly?
I don't live in the UK. I can't say that I know their everyday workings. What I can say is that this is a global cover-up and abuse of systematic power that we've seen over and over. I know that currently right now we're extremely let down by our own government, and they have the key to a lot of information. What I feel is happening right now is so much evidence, and this is just one fraction of it, but it's inescapable. And the people are putting the pressure on their local governments to do the right thing and further investigate. So I don't know that I have full trust in government. And I know there are some really great police officers and detectives there that want to do the right thing. But I feel where our trust really lies is in the people and our voice and our ability to put them in the positions to do their jobs and to do the right thing and protect our vulnerable. So that's really where I feel our trust lies. And their actions will put the faith back. People will have more faith in them if they do decide to do this and really investigate.
And just on that point of investigation, I absolutely take what you're saying about understanding how we operate. But just, you'll know, of course, that Virginia did first speak to the Metropolitan Police in London as far back as May 2015. They decided not to continue with any investigation. They reviewed that again in 2019, deciding again not to investigate. Another complaint comes forward in 2021. They decide not to investigate. That year, our programme handed them Virginia's civil claim. They decided not to investigate. Is it time for them to review those decisions, do you think?
100%. What else does it have to take? I think the cost of proof is too high for these survivors, and we've seen that over and over again. What else will it take for you to actually stand up and do the right thing? Now is the time. This is the opportunity to say that we are going to make a change in all of our governments, that we're going to operate the way that we are intended to operate, and we're going to protect those that deserve to be protected. And it doesn't matter who is being implicated. There is no separate law for those in power. And it's beyond time. Let's do the right thing.
And if the Metropolitan Police don't investigate or review their decisions, there is a police watchdog here. Do you think they must step in and say to the Met, we're going to look at those decisions you took in the light of what is coming forward now?
Absolutely. I think it's very similar to what's happening here in the U.S. The Department of Justice decided that there was no credible information when we know that that's far from the truth. And then our House of Representatives and our Senate decided to take it a step further and subpoena documents. And so every branch of government needs to take this seriously. If one door closes and you have the opportunity to reopen that door, you should take it upon yourself to do that.
And Skye, can I ask you, Virginia's story, like the story of so many abuse victims, is littered with being gaslit by individuals who don't take responsibility, by the organisations that don't force them to take accountability. How hard was that for Virginia to go to the Met Police, say, here in the UK, and constantly have them say, we're not going to investigate? Do you think that did take a toll on her?
I do. I think she gives this such strong appearance on camera, but we got to know her behind closed doors. Obviously, we're her family, right? Mm-hmm. And so she would, I guess she just continued to reiterate, like, what is it going to take for people to finally believe me? Like, what do I have to do to show that I'm a truth teller? And by continuously being gaslit by the UK government, the UK Metropolitan Police, the US government here. I mean, she was incredibly hurt by the sweetheart deal that Jeffrey Epstein was given by Alex Acosta. I mean, it was a kick. It was just a kick in the stomach to her that every single time you feel like you would get to that point of justice or I'm doing the right thing, somebody from the side would come in and essentially dismiss her or dismiss her claims. And now, to what Amanda was saying too, now the public is coming forward and saying, no, there's just too much substantial evidence here. Mm-hmm. Every document leak, every email leak, it stinks of a cover-up. Mm-hmm. And I think it's time that we get back and use our voices for good. And our government needs to remind themselves they work for us. Mm-hmm. They don't work, it's not the other way around. So we need to give them a stark reminder that, it's time to do the right thing.
And I know this is difficult, but watching her get knocked back after knockback, what do you think that did to her personally?
I think it's the story of a lot of survivors out there, that they constantly feel like they're getting these wins, these little wins. And then there's just this big knock from the side. I mean, we can tell you that we feel it in advocacy a lot of times, where we feel like you get these little wins, these little knocks, right? But then, like, what are we actually doing about it? Like, so I think what we need to start doing, and what she would be requesting, what she was always requesting was, we're tired of talking about it. The survivors are tired of just having to talk about it. We have to take some sort of action here. Actions speak a hell of a lot louder than words. And so, I think it took in a tremendous toll on her through time. I will say, during the last couple weeks of her life, I was with her. She was really proud. She was really proud of her survivor sister. She was really proud of what she was able to accomplish with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. This book was really to kind of, I wouldn't say close a chapter, but reopen a chapter to where we can really start asking ourselves some questions. And I do think, again, it's a vindicating moment for her. There's a whole different story to tell on her own personal life that maybe took a larger toll on her towards the end, but certainly this took a toll on her throughout the many years. And I hope her kids can see their mom for what she truly is, which is an international and an American hero.
And that pride she felt in those last weeks, did you get any sense that it was in any way, it was outweighed by the toll that everything else had taken on her?
I mean, with reading this book, you'll see clearly the story of a survivor, a story of a victim, really, to begin with, that goes into a survivor. Her body and it took a tremendous toll through the years from the people that had abused her. I mean, this wasn't just like, this was like very heinous acts. This was very aggressive acts that these men were doing to her. I mean, it's very raw in there when you read it, because it's not just, I don't know, it's not sensational at any point. It just becomes something that that you just feel tremendously hurt by. And so I do think her body and her mind took a very large toll through the years. But she had a lot of personal tolls in her personal life towards the end there that I think led to the ultimate decision of her taking her life.
Just in terms of, as you say, the people coming out to show their support, to say enough is enough here, and to look for more action. Obviously, the move with Prince Andrew and his titles is one step of accountability, and I know that you're pleased that that's happened. We've got evidence from court papers that show lawyers sent a letter to Prince Andrew asking him to cooperate. The letter was FedExed to Buckingham Palace. The palace refused delivery. Do they owe Virginia's legacy in terms of doing more now because of that? Absolutely.
I think they owe answers. At the very least, I think they owe not just Virginia, but the UK people. They owe that. These are people that they essentially look up to. They are supposed to be a representation of truth and trust. And I think they owe that moment to sit down and be questions and answer the questions that have been asked of them for decades. They owe Virginia that, for sure, and they owe their people that.
So would you like to see the king or the palace put pressure on Prince Andrew, who always said he would answer questions about what he knew, but he never has? So would you like to see more pressure exerted on him to do that?
Absolutely. I just don't think that this can be avoidable anymore. There's just too much coming out, and I think it's beyond time. We can't continue to let this hide in the shadows, and everyone is being put in that corner of having our own government is avoiding having to answer questions, and people are tired of it. And so it is time. I would hope that he would pressure his brother to do the right thing. I think he's already putting him in a position of pressure where he's had to relinquish his titles. I think there needs to be more, for sure.
And can I ask, I mean, in many ways, you sort of allude to this fact that at least the prince moving to step down away from royal life some years ago, stopping using these titles, is some accountability for Virginia. What hope of that is there for you at home?
It's what we're fighting for every single day. I hope that our government remembers, like Skye said earlier, that they work for us and not the other way around. We have to look back to the foundation of our government and separation of powers. And we're calling on our representatives to do the right thing. You're an elected official. And so there is hope that they can come back to their roots and acknowledge and recognize what they swore to do, and that was to protect their people. And so we're going to keep pushing until that happens. Whatever that takes, we're going to keep pushing for it because it is the right thing to do and it's beyond time. And the U.S. government has the power to do this. We know they do, and we're going to continue to hold them accountable.
And what does accountability in the US look like? What exactly is it that you need to see?
I would say for me, it would be getting these documents released. It's important to note that, and I've heard the argument, well, they've released 33,000 documents. That's 1% of the total documentation that's been provided. I know it for a fact because my sister gave them a lot of that documentation, and they still have it. And to come and say, oh, well, no. There's nothing really to see in here. After they ran their campaign on the fact that they would release the documents is kind of a slap in the face. And so what real accountability here is first getting all documents released, allowing the redactions of the names for people, specifically survivors, and then the unredaction of names for anybody that could be complicit. And then what we need to do from there, we got to take these in steps, right? So first step, release the documents. Second step, we need to take it further and fully investigate anybody that was on the flights, in the logs. There was a movement of money, video evidence of you potentially being in that room. I guarantee you there's video evidence of people being in those rooms. And we need to hold them to the fullest extent of the law, whether that's, there's a lot of talk around statute of limitations, what that looks like, but nobody should be above the law here in the sense that if you committed any type of heinous acts against these girls at the time, you need to be held accountable. You should be behind bars. You should be with Ghislaine Maxwell in a maximum security prison, mind you, not a minimum security prison. And held accountable. We want to see every single person that was complicit in this sex trafficking ring held to account.
Just very briefly, you talk about flights and flight logs. We know that flights went in and out of the UK, not just in London. Would you like to see those flights fully investigated?
Yes, I think we've kind of alluded to this, but this is international. This is not just the US. This is not just the UK. This is an international investigation that needs to take place. And if the UK is safeguarding any type of information that could be valuable to the public, to the FBI, which I think they probably already have, then shame on our government. Shame on our government for safeguarding and being pedo protectors. Like this is, I think this has been going on for far too long. And the fact that it's taken this long to even really start this conversation is an injustice to the survivors, but be very, very mindful that we will not stop until justice is served. My sister was very clear about that. That rings in our head every day as we come forward publicly. That rings in every survivor's head every day. Because again, and this is a common theme, but it's the right thing to do.
A couple more very, very briefly, if you would. I mean, what is your message to President Trump on this?
Remember that you were elected for this position, that your constituents who voted for you, your constituents who didn't vote for you, you serve every single one of them. This is not a party issue. It's not a political toy that you or your administration can dangle. I think we've all reached a point across every single aisle where we are asking this of you. You promised from the very beginning of your campaign and even your last presidency, that you would be a president that was going to drain the swamp, that was going to uncover corruption. This is one of the biggest cases of corruption, and we are asking you to do the right thing. Will you hold to your promise?
And can I just ask, I know you said you'll keep fighting. Your sister fought for such a long time. The cost to you is already enormous in losing your sister. How do you feel about continuing that fight, potentially for years going forward?
My sister fought not... I want to be careful. I want to be very clear here that the reason she fought is at a very human level. It's very simple. When she held her baby girl for the first time. And she knew this could never happen again to her daughter, to your daughters, to your sisters. She knew this could never happen again. And I think we hold very true on that principle as well. I think a lot of these survivors, their daughters are reaching those ages where this happened to them. And I just, this, Amanda said it's the biggest international cover-up in the history of the world. It's a sex trafficking ring that essentially went on for decades without any account to any of these men, really any investigation, as you've alluded to as well. And so we won't stop until justice is served because, one, she protected me when I was a kid. She's protecting your daughters when she came out, and her own daughter, my daughter. I don't see, it's just such at a foundation human level is the reason that we're doing this, the reason that we're advocating. And, I loved my sister dearly, and I hope she's proud.
I was just going to say, you can hear how proud you are of her. She became such a public figure. How do you remember her privately, as a family, as a sister, as a sister-in-law?
I remember her as joy. In spite of everything that she had gone through in her life, she still had this capacity for joy and love in her life. I remember her as cheeky and funny and lighting up the room as soon as she came in. And she had the ability to she was just amazing. There is no one like her. There will never be anyone like her. And we'll just continue to keep her voice alive.
Skye, would you like to add anything to that? You don't have to, but if you want to.
Amanda said it great. I think she was just light. She was joy. She's my big sister. She, we didn't sit around the family table talking about Epstein and Maxwell. We enjoyed time with each other. We got to, to talk about our kids and talk about her kids. And, I hope the world knows, she was such a normal person. I think you're going to get that across in the book too, where she really kind of leads you through this. This is who she was, right? She recognizes at points in the book, it's one of my favorites, is where I know this is hard. Let's take a moment to breathe. Let's stop for a moment. Let's go shopping, right? That was her. She always wanted to find the best in the world. Even to some of her detriment, to be honest, she always wanted to see the good in people and not the hurt, right? She wanted to teach her daughter that there was good in this world. It wasn't all evil, even though there are evil men that do evil things to you. And so, I hope people feel that from her, that motherhood, that love, that compassion, that you don't always find in somebody that has had the things done to her that happened with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and so many other people that are still walking free today. So she's such a beautiful human being. And I'm so excited the world gets an opportunity to read her book, because I think they're going to see that.
And you clearly miss her very much.
Every day.
Every day, yeah. It's just surreal not having her here. She should be sitting here talking to you. It's such a win for her in so many ways, but it's such a loss to us and to the world. But again, I'm glad people get a chance to read who she was. You don't always, I think Amanda said it's such a gift sometimes, because it's not every day that somebody in your life passes and you get an opportunity to really hear what they felt and how they felt about you. And I think that comes across a lot in the book. I felt a lot of love from that book.
Skye and Amanda Roberts, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Forecast. Until next time, goodbye.